I'd like to introduce to the podcast my special guest for this week, Ross Wilson, Director of Liberal Arts at the University of Nottingham. Welcome to the podcast, Ross.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
Pleasure. So we met some time ago when we were discussing various Mayflower projects, and then lockdown happened and lots of things got put on hold. So I'm pleased to say that things are back on track again. But before we delve into the exhibitions and the talks, let's find a little bit about yourself. So could you tell us, what it is that you do as part of your job as Director of Liberal Arts?
Sure. So I am the Director of Liberal Arts at the University of Nottingham, and I'm Professor of History. Within Liberal Arts, we are a programme that allows students to study across a range of different subject areas that allow students to design and build their own degree programme. So they're able to take modules from the arts, the sciences, social sciences that reflect their interests, that allow them to pursue areas of research that they are interested in, but also to discover something new that allows them to pick up a language for the first time, or take a sociology or psychology class for the first time, to explore those areas, to learn a new skill, to pick up a different method, and to see whether those areas are of interest to them that they might want to develop in the future. So for me, it's a really special program that allows students to do the things that they want to do at university, and to use the university as a place where they can develop new ideas, they can build new skills, and think about what they'd like to do in the future. So for me, liberal arts just gives a chance for using universities to the best of their advantage, basically.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That that they can really tailor their education to suit them, rather than trying to create a program then that may not fit all of the students, or they may be interested in some bits and not as much as others. That they've got access to this wide range of learning. So that sounds amazing.
I'm really proud of the program. So we have about 240 students in our program, and there are 240 different routes through. They all do something individual. They all do something different, and it means a lot when you know that you chose that class or you chose that seminar because it spoke to you, because it was important to you. And I think it changes your engagement with it. I think it gives people a sense of agency and a sense of engagement with their course. And it also means that you have a chance to reflect on who you are. You've got a chance to reflect on what you want to do. And everyone changes at university. You're not the same person when you start as when you leave. If over the course of your time within liberal arts you want to shift focus, or you want to develop a new area of interest, then that's absolutely fine to do, because there is flexibility and choice within our program.
That's great. So when your students are ready to graduate, what kind of positions or jobs or careers do they go into?
So it is really broad, as you'd expect from a liberal arts program. And one of the things we talk about with people in their final year is how to talk about your liberal arts degree. So we're focused upon the importance of making generalists, with apologies to Oscar Wilde. We're interested in the way in which generalists are able to adapt and move into new situations, pick up new skills, because those are the types of jobs we'll all be doing. These are the types of areas of work that people will be involved in no matter what. So at the end of their degree program, they've had the experiences of moving into new teams where perhaps they don't know everybody. They've had the opportunity of working with people whose skill sets are different from theirs. They've had the challenge of picking up a new skill, a new talent, a new area of influence, a new methodology, because that's what they've done in all their other classes. And correspondingly, all the positions that people move into afterwards are really diverse. So we have people who might move into education and journalism, business, insurance, and finance. We have people who move into charity work. We have people who move into further education. And I think that variety is really important, because it means that people are using their degree program to get to the jobs or the careers that they want, and to realize that they can change that job and career prospects over the course of the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, so they can draw on all of those experiences they've had at university. That's really amazing to hear. And I think when I look back at my own journey through college and university and setting up my own business, there's some things that have continued throughout all of those, and then there's others that have vastly changed. I think you continuously, even when you leave university, you're still learning, you're still growing, you're still developing different methodologies to work with and collaborating with different people. So having that base at the very beginning and learning how to navigate very different worlds and very different technologies and organizations, it sounds like you're giving them such a good grounding and a base for success.
No, that's what the program is set up for. That's how the program has been designed, and it's great to see the work that people do. And certainly in the final year, we have an optional dissertation, and seeing the range of different ideas, the bravery that people have in encountering new projects or designing their own work, the variety of different skills that people exhibit in that dissertation is just a testament to seeing the results of allowing people to design and build their own program, because they draw from multiple influences. They create projects that are meaningful and relevant to them, either on a personal level or for a career, and they design work and create work which is absolutely outstanding.
Wow, amazing. So that brings us quite nicely into our connection. So yourself and the manuscripts department were setting up an exhibition and had heard about the work that I'd been doing on the Mayflower project and asked if I'd come on board. And this week I've just given my talk at the university, which was amazing to have, for the first time since lockdown, a live audience in front of me. So let's sort of go back to when you're thinking about these exhibitions and putting on these events that both the public and students can engage with. Where do you start off?
I think I always start off with thinking about and talking to the people who would use those exhibitions, who would be interested in those exhibitions. So any exhibition design always has to begin with the people who you are going to be putting the exhibition on for, and that's either having consultations or discussion groups that allow you to realize what these histories mean for people, to think about what they would be interested in seeing in this particular type of exhibition. And from that, you start to get a sense of what's important, what's significant, what would be helpful. And having that consultation, having that discussion right at the outset, gives you a platform for the rest of the work. So from that basis, we then thought about how we could match up those interests with what is present within the archives and the manuscripts. And what we have within the initial discussions was that sense of wanting to understand the people behind these histories, wanting to understand their experiences, and wanting to understand them in a far greater detail. So being able to understand what it meant to be practicing a religion, or a type of religion that was regarded as being against the teachings of the Church of England, what it meant to be part of the wider society at that time. And we were able to locate within the archives, obviously church court records, letters and diaries, that enables you to see the experiences of people connected with the Mayflower.
Right. So the exhibition's now open. So it was scheduled to happen in 2020, but the world pandemic put a halt to that, like it has done to so many things. But it's now back open, and it's got some amazing pieces in there. It's just such a rich collection of manuscripts and books, including my very own diary, which I felt quite honoured to be able to place my diary in amongst some of these books that are around 400 years old, and there's my scribble amongst it. And I understand that I'm part of 4 guest speakers. So let's have a little chat about each of those speakers and why you approached them to come and talk at the university.
Sure, absolutely. So, as part of the exhibition, we wanted to have a place where people could find out more about the history of the Mayflower and the legacy of the Mayflower, and to think about the connections between it. Now, you mentioned in the exhibition that we have your diaries in an exhibition filled with text and documents of several hundred years old, and I like those interconnections. So I think you can start to imagine these histories weaving in and out of our lives and our communities, and how they weave people together in ways too.
Mm,
And part of the guest speakers' work is to give people the opportunity to realize those interconnections between things and the interconnections between ideas and identities. So we begin our series of talks with a talk from Anna Scott from the University of Lincoln. Anna has been working on the sort of the history and the legacy of the Pilgrims over the last few years. And Anna's talk really described the ways in which the communities of North Nottinghamshire and Lincolnshire and elsewhere connect up to the history of the Pilgrims, the way in which they see it as part of their lives, the way in which they're proud of particular aspects of it, the way in which they are connected to these histories, and how important it is for society, how important it is for local culture, but also how it has featured in tourism as well, how it
yeah.
becomes part of a sort of wider networks that people from the rest of the country or from other countries across the world will come and experience too. So you see how all these people are drawn together from these stories. So Anna's talk really highlighted those interconnections. Obviously, with your talk, which really again demonstrates those connections between people, and the way in which these are histories that mean something for individuals, and the way in which they are part of our story.
Mm,
Stories of personal interest, but also stories that connect you to people across the rest of the world too.
yeah.
And it's that point of connection that then is explored through our next 2 speakers. We have Dr. David Gehring, who is here at the University of Nottingham, who has a talk which places those individuals in the context of English religious history. So David talks about how the Pilgrims were part of a much larger movement that takes place across the whole of England in the 17th century, where religious practice and religious ideas are debated, and they're
Yeah.
debated with great intensity, and they're debated with the background of a great deal of repression and violence as well. So this gives us a chance to understand the context of the Pilgrims. And then our final talk is from Dr. Caleb Bailey, who is interested in the history of migration. And Caleb talks about how the Pilgrims' experience of migration can be seen as a wider history that continues right up to the present day, of people moving, and people moving because they want greater freedom, they want greater autonomy, they want to escape persecution. But the way in which the histories of people from the middle of England in the 17th century can connect up to the experiences of people today who are looking to flee oppressive regimes, or are looking to make better lives for themselves.
Mm.
So again, it's that interweaving, those connections that can be made because of the subject matter, because of the way in which it connects people in all these really interesting ways. That's what we wanted to explore in the guest talks.
Wow. Yeah, you have got such a wide variety of subject matter, and I went along to listen to Anna's talk, and it was fantastic. And we'll go into a little bit more about how listeners might be able to access that. But we're going to take a little creative break, and then we'll be back discussing these topics further.
A new start, an ocean apart. Square sails sailing south, a steady pull out at river's mouth. Then west by nor'west, our Lord knows best. White clouds race across the sky, and stars at night to navigate by. From Plymouth Sound, New England bound, storms and sickness, brethren, now a few less. Big waves, enormous swells, the Speedwell did not speed well. The Mayflower now alone, sailing into the unknown. Several weeks at sea, at least we will be free. Currents and drift, a paradigm shift. A lowly cabin boy shouts land ahoy, captain and crew all sight a coast anew. Blue surf and rainbow spray on a truly auspicious day. Drop the anchor, lower the boats, a land of plenty in 1620.
Well, I'm back with Ross Wilson, and we've just been hearing about some of the amazing topics that that you've been delving into with the different guest speakers. And there's 2 more speakers to come along. And I understand that all of these talks are being recorded and that people then could access them if they're not in the vicinity of the University of Nottingham. So could you tell us a little bit more about how we might access those?
So all the talks will be available through the university's account. They will be available through the Manuscript Special Collections and the museum's webpage. So you'll just be able to log on to the museum's Lakeside's webpage, and will be directed to their Vimeo account, where you can access the lectures, you can access the transcripts, and participate in that discussion of histories and legacies. And I think that's incredibly important, considering the past 18 months that we've had, that we get a chance to be able to engage in those connections, because I think the absence of connections and the absence of talking about points of and links between people is something that we all missed over the course of last few years.
Definitely. And I think throughout the last few years, and as I've been working through my project and working through the series of Pilgrim Woman sculptures, and migration is such a big topic now, and it was then during that time of movement with the separatists fleeing for their religious freedom. And I think more so with this last sculpture that I'm building, and that's going to be situated in the Lincolnshire town of Boston. And one of the things that came up was that divide that is felt locally of people who feel that they're of that place and people who feel like they're not of that place, and that barrier still, when if you look at the history of that area, that migration has always been at the center, because it's, you know, a port town, and there's always been that movement of people. So it's interesting that sometimes that when we start on these projects or look at a different area of history, it's often holding up a mirror to ourselves and reflecting on the past and how our actions have shaped the future and what we can learn from that going forward.
No, I think that's absolutely true. And I think it's the way in which those histories cast a point of connection over successive generations. So the way in which these events have an impact that are felt and experienced, as well as being recorded in texts and documents and archives, these are histories that have an emotional impact. And I mean, just in the way in which it makes you think about who you are. It makes you think about the actions of others. It makes you think about the way in which these are histories that might compel you to act differently as well. And I think living with those histories as part of who you are is a really important aspect of how we can engage with the history and legacy of our local communities, but also our national and international communities too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's amazing that the university has this program, but also forward facing, have these exhibitions and series of talks for both students and public alike to access. And before we finish, I just want to give a little special shout out, because this really sort of highlights the importance of talking and of doing this podcast. I received this beautiful email from a journalism candidate at Harvard University, Linda Kennedy, and she got in touch to say that she'd been listening to the podcast and she was writing a piece for her degree on the Mayflower Pilgrims, because she'd discovered in her own ancestry that she is a descendant of around 5 Mayflower travellers, and she wanted to say how useful it's been. And I've been able to put her in touch with some of the different people I've accessed through my podcast, and I know she's itching to wait for the videos of the talks to go online so she can watch them. So let's have a little shout out to Linda at Harvard. Hi, Linda. So it's great that both the local student body and a student body all the way over at Harvard, Massachusetts, is listening. So it's amazing that we can offer that service and that connectivity across the other side of the world.
I think those points of connections are what places like universities are really, really useful for, because I mean, our campus is open. It's a place where you have lots of interesting ideas, lots of interesting people. And I would say that it's for me, universities are always a special place, because they're always exciting places, they're always dynamic places, and the things that you can do there can have an impact and they can have influences, and they are resources. They're resources for the students who work here, for the staff who work here, but they're resources for local communities and international communities as well. And the things that take place here should be things that are shared, should be the things that are meaningful and give people a chance to engage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being my guest, Ross. I've really enjoyed our talk and getting to know you over the last few years. And if people are fairly local to Nottingham, how long is the exhibition running until?
So the exhibition will run until January.
Okay, that's great. And then they can go online and check out some of the talks as well and continue to engage with it. So thank you very much, Ross, for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you.
Spirit of Mayflower is part of a series celebrating my Spirit of Mayflower project. You can get involved in lots of ways. You can take a look at some of the movies and pictures I took on my journey by heading to the Rachel Carter Sculpture Facebook page. You can also head to my website at www.rachelcarter.co.uk, and there you'll be able to view some of the sculptures I make, treat yourself to a limited edition Pilgrim Woman sculpture, or take a look at some of the online tutorials.
With a cargo full of hopes and dreams and 100 souls inside, we're crossing the great ocean, we're riding on the tide. With a cargo full of hopes and